Hi guys, you're here with me, Jen the Taxidermy Witch, and we are going to talk about oak, as in the wood, in witchcraft. So, I don't have a piece of oak that I've taken from a living tree, which in one of these books is what you'll read is how you want to grab it for some magical uses. But I do have a piece of oak furniture here, and this is a drawer from my apothecary cabinet down below back here. So, it's the only piece of oak I have to show you, but, oak furniture, you certainly could do a spell right here in this drawer. Do a working right there in that drawer, and you can utilize that oak if you didn't have it anywhere else. So now let's sit down and talk about it in these books that I've got. Grab a cup of tea, some elixir water, whatever you'd like. I always spray a little bit of Florida water on my hands before working. Ask Spirit for help. And I want to say too that when I do research for something and I get into these books, not just these are the ones I've found that contain oak. I have a lot of books that I look through. These are magical tools to me. So if you're wondering why did I put on Florida water before I got into these, that's why. To me, I respect them as magical tools, and when I'm doing research, to me, that is a magical working in a sense. So, that's why I oftentimes do Florida water even before I'm about to read to you guys. Just something I do. It's not something you have to do. So, let's get to it. The kids wanted to say hi this evening. So the first book that we're going to read out of will be Scott Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. Okay? So this is all alphabetical as it's formed out, laid out like an encyclopedia. And so when you get to O, you'll find oak, and there's a lot there to talk about. So let's get right into it. Okay, oak. External use of the bark is SKBRFCA. I don't know what that means. It looks to me like some table of element breakdown abbreviations, but I'm not sure. The folk names are white oak, DUIR, Dur, Jove's nuts, juglans is the Latin. Gender, masculine. Planet the sun, which it's kind of a yellowish sunshine looking wood, makes sense. Element is fire. Deities, Dagda, Dionysus, Jupiter, Thor, Zeus, Heme, Heme, Janus, Rhea, Rhea, Cybele, Cybele, Hecate, Pan, and Erato. Powers of oak are protection, health, money, healing, potency, fertility, and luck. Now, my Uncle Ike, he makes bowls out of all kinds of woods that he forges the burl in nature from. So, I will definitely show you his oak bowls. Now that we know that we can do all of those workings, that's amazing. I'm going to say it again for those I know you guys note it down in your books. Protection, health, money, healing, potency, fertility, and luck. The ritual uses of oak. Since the oak was a source of food for early settlers in Britain, as well as Europe, what do you mean the oak was a source of food? I'm guessing they're meaning the nuts, because there's a nut in the picture, like an acorn type thing. But really, wow, I mean, how is it a source of food? I guess hopefully we'll find out. It was not in Wicca in the kitchen, though. So, let's see. Source of food. for the early settlers in Britain as well as Europe. It came to be revered and worshipped far back into prehistory. The Druids, traditionally, would not meet for rituals unless an oak was present. And the very words oak and druid, some say, are related. Religious idols were fashioned from oak wood, and witches often danced beneath the tree. I have a book just on druids. I should have looked in there to see if I can find oak. Let me just run away real quick and see if there we are. There's the book. Now, the book has a certain purpose, but it's the only book I have on druids. So I'm just going to see if there's anything in here on it because, and this is how my research goes. Like, maybe, why would I have looked for oak in this book until I knew that it was, something there. So, let's see because it does say that it has to do with fertility. So why wouldn't it be in the sexual practices of the Druids if it's so big? Let's find out. Oak trees! Ding, ding, ding! 46 and 50. This is why I love books, man. To me, this is easier than popping a page down. So on page 46, trying to find oak. Okay. We're in a chapter called Tools for the Working of Celtic Sex Magic Rituals. And it says that wands harvested during the nighttime, particularly those harvested under the bright moonlight, belong to the realm of the moon. Those, therefore, have a female affinity and should be used only by female druid priestesses. Now you are ready to harvest and craft a wand. For simplicity's sake, I advise you to choose either a rowan, which is a mountain ash tree, or an oak tree. And then it says see plate 5. Both species contain the properties you will need for sex magic rituals. So then it says go to page 50, which I'm guessing is... Yep, okay. Oh, there's a part in this, that in the tools section also, that talks about tools for working with Celtic sex magic. And now there's a chart called trees and their associated characters. We've got all the trees. I mean, loads of them. Apple, ash, beech, birch, cherry, elder, elm, hawthorn, hazel, holly, ivy, mistletoe, oak, pear, rowan, sycamore, willow, and yew. Now, we're going to tell about oak. The most sacred tree of the Druid tradition. The supreme tree of the male power and potency. And again, right here, it did say potency and fertility. It makes sense. One of the most used woods for sex magic wands. Unfortunately, very difficult to craft. And I think that's because, have you ever heard this phrase, strong as oak? It would probably be hard to craft from the oak because of that. So, really glad that we just read this verse and I ended up popping that into the pile. Woohoo! So, that is by a fellow named John, Jon.G. Hughes. Hughes. Sexual Practices of the Druids. A Handbook of Magic and Ritual. Okay, so now we're done with the ritual uses and we're on to the magical uses. A tree as long-lived and strong as the oak naturally offers magical protection. 2 twigs of oak bound with red thread so that they form an equal armed cross, which would be like this rather than like this, makes a potent safeguard against evil. It should be hung in the house. Acorns placed in windows guard against the entrance of lightning, so the oak acorns. And a piece of oak wood carried protects its bearer from all harm. If you can catch a falling oak leaf, like you see it falling as you're walking, if you can catch it when it's falling from the tree, you shall have no colds all winter. Okay, that's excellent information, Scotty. Thank you. When a sick person is in the house, make a fire of oak wood and warm the house with it to draw off the illness. Do this only if you have a fireplace, of course. Carry an acorn against illness and pains, for immortality or longevity, to preserve youthfulness. Planting an acorn in the dark of the moon ensures that you shall receive money in the near future. Carrying an acorn increases fertility and strengthens sexual potency. I do have a couple of acorns that I can show you guys that we harvested and found this summer. But you know, I don't know if different trees have different acorns, if they're all from the oak. If you guys know, please tell me. Okay. These are the little acorns. Let me get it better. Okay, here's the acorn. And then here's the beautiful little top that was on it. They're so cute. Ah! Okay, so we know that those are edible. I wonder if that's what they were talking about when we were talking about, you know, a main food source, yada yada yada. Where did that acorn go? There it is. Okay, so back into it. I just wanted to show you up close if you'd never seen an acorn. Alright, so carrying any piece of the oak draws good luck. So if you needed to have like some kind of good luck sachet or anything lucky, you could put some oak wood in there. There are other kinds of oak trees. Each has the same basic powers, but each expresses those powers differently. Observing and asking the oak can reveal to you the finer points of their powers. And that's what I'm talking about. That's the main thing that I grasped from Scotty. It's really about what the herb does for you personally and for your craft, because, man, I've worked with things that say they're so potent for astral protection, they're so potent for protection, or so potent for this. And to me, it just doesn't work that way. But other things do that don't work that way for other people. So really, you guys, I feel like sometimes these herbs just connect to our DNA differently. You know, each individual person differently, which is a beautiful thing. But it takes a lot of notes, a lot of research to figure out that in witchcraft herbalism. Maybe not just normal herbalism, but herbalism with intention. Okay, so that's what we've gotten from the Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. And now we'll talk from a rare book. We don't really talk about much from this book, Earth Power, at all. Another Scott Cunningham book. A book that doesn't have an index. So honestly, really hard to kind of look through and find the things that you need. So first, in chapter 10 of this book, there's a section called Tree Magic. And trees have from time immemorially been closely associated with magic. These stout members of the vegetable kingdom may stand for as long as 1,000 years and tower above our mortal heads. As such, they are symbols and keepers of the unlimited power, longevity, and timelessness. An untouched forest, studded with trees of all ages, size, and types, is more than a mysterious magical place. It's one of the energy reservoirs of nature. Within its boundaries stand ancient and new sentinels, guardians of the universal force that have manifested on this earth in vegetable form. As such, a tree is an excellent spot for magical workings of any kind. Not only tree magic, but any tree anywhere in the world can be used for spells and techniques discussed here. Since each type of tree has its own particular powers, these will be outlined after the actual techniques are presented. Bear in mind that tree magic needn't be limited to these tree types, but for every tree has its own inherent powers that vary from tree to tree. Experiment. And that's what I'm saying. Experiment with the trees. Experiment with the elements of the earth. Experiment with the time of day, the storm that's going on outside. Experiment and write it down. Or if you're able to, have a digital journal like this that you can do on the Pagans and Witches Amino app. A lot of people do that. Not with just videos, but their posts and such. So before I started my YouTube videos, I was doing a lot of digital, that's how I was noting down my spells. And that's how a lot of, you do it too on the Pagans and Witches Amino app. It's amazing. We help each other so much with these ideas. Okay, all trees have, save for the poisonous ones, such as yew and hemlock, are excellent for healing magic. So not poisonous trees, though. Any tree can be used to take away a headache and give you energy, or to reveal the future. We are limited purely by our own minds and actions. It is important to talk to any tree or trees you are working magic with. That's what I'm talking about. Talk out loud to your things, guys. Your dolls, your herbs, your books. Tell them you love them. Kiss them. Hug a tree. It's literally a phrase for a reason, A teased phrase for a reason. So it's important to talk to any tree you are working with magic. Tell them exactly what your need is. Explain to them why the need exists and its urgency. Trees are living entities with a conscious that, while different from our own, is still capable of communication upon subtler planes of awareness. Do you hear that? That is such beautiful, beautiful information. So even though old spells sometimes direct you to pound nails into a tree, please don't. Yeah, please don't. This is not only damaging and hurtful to the tree, it is absolutely unnecessary, for there are other techniques available. You could tie things to a tree. That is the suggested use I've always seen in Scotty's stuff. Some of these spells require marking symbols on leaves. A stick that has been burned on one end is excellent, for the charcoal will act as a graphite in the pencil. Practice with this until you become proficient. So if you want to put markings on leaves of trees, they're telling you to burn a piece of wood and then use the cooled off charcoal at the end of the burnt stick to write that. And then it goes into tree spells and such. But I just wanted to kind of talk to you guys about trees and, how they relate to magic. There are tree spells in here for healing, to cure a backache, to break a bad habit, to regain lost energy, to divine the future. A tree love spell. And then it goes through the magical powers of trees, okay? I will do a video on the magical powers of all these trees that they have listed, and I'll tell you the list of them. Also, if you can't wait for the video that's upcoming and you just want to know one of these trees, what their powers are, I will look it up and put it in the comments for you, no problem. Really no problem. So we are, of course, talking about oak, and when I get there, I'll say all the powers, but I'm just going to say the trees now. Almond, apple, ash, apricot, aspen, birch, cedar. We did the cedar video. It says here the magical powers are prosperity and longevity, and I didn't get that book out for this. Coconut, cypress, elder, elm, eucalyptus, fig, hawthorn, hazel, hemlock, juniper, lemon, lime, linden, maple, mulberry, olive, orange, palm, peach, pine, rowan, walnut, willow, and yew. We also did a fig video, didn't we? So, talking about fig wood, that is fertility, strength, energy, and health. Again, I didn't have this book at that time, so we'll add that to that. Now when we're talking about oak, which is this video, the magical powers of the oak tree are healing, strength, money, and longevity. Okay, so more on oak in this book that we've been in, which is Earth Power, Techniques of Natural Magic by Scott Cunningham. Oak falls under fertility. Okay, we knew that from that book. And oak also falls under youth magic. Alright. Some good information there, just on the basics of trees and having all the lists of the different most common woods of, you know, the Americas, etc. There's tons in magical herbalism, so I'm going to save that for last. Now we're on to Scott Cunningham and David Harrington's The Magical Household. And we're talking about oak. Alright, so in The Magical Household, we find things on oak on page 13. We're in the chapter of the hearth, and here we go. A simpler method consists of, fire gazing. A simpler method consists of combining ground sandalwood, cedar juniper, and tossing the mixture into coals for gazing. Where is the part on? Oh. Maybe. My apologies, y'all. Gotta be somewhere on there. Well, somewhere on page 12 or 13. Oh, here we go. Page 12. The type of wood burned within the fireplace can affect spells immensely. Oak is burned during healing magic. When someone in the home is sick, this helps to draw off the illness. We heard that in there, didn't we? And aids in recovery and guards the rest of the household from contracting the sickness. And then it talks about other things other wood does, but there's the oak on page 12 of Magical Household under the hearth. And then we find oak again under furnishings in this book. I love that they're, you know, because here we are, we're talking about oak furnishings, and that's exactly why I pulled this out, you know. Yes. Oak furnishings. Following is a list of woods and their magical influences. You might keep these in mind when purchasing new furniture. And under oak, it says, strength, luck, health, and protection. I don't know if we talked about this in the cedar video, but it does say cedar furniture is good for healing, longevity, purification, and protection. Alright. So, now we're on to page 84 of Magical Household in the chapter of The Mystic Garden. We are talking about oak, and we've talked about this in the clover video, but it comes up again. If money is a problem, you could choose mint, onion, snapdragon, camellia, chamomile, clover, dill, basil, and perhaps even a small section of wheat. Pine, oak, and ashwood and apple trees planted near the house also helped direct prosperity your way. Also, willow banana plant. We have a giant banana plant in our living room, and I'm going to be doing a video on banana plants because they are so flippin' magical, and I had no idea. And if you're able to grow them in your house, even more. But here, we're talking about having either pine, oak, ash, or apple trees planted near the house to help direct prosperity your way. Also, willow banana plant. So cool. So that's what we've got on oak out of Scott Cunningham and David Harrington's The Magical Household. And we've got loads in Cunningham's Magical Herbalism. So, oak. Sometimes in this book there are typos. This one too, on the pages. When I come across them, I always let you guys know. So it says oak for Magical Herbalism is on page 6. And then it says it's on page 26, but it's not. It's on page 25. And then 53 through 54, 75, 91, 96, 183 through 184, 223, 247, and 248. And then I put 249 question mark, but I don't know why. So I guess we'll find out when we get there. Okay, so we are on page 6. And this chapter is on tools of the magical herbalist. For fertility magic, an oak wand topped with an acorn or one made of fir topped with a pine cone is often used. As this wood must be obtained from a living tree, you may not be able to obtain the specific type you desire, but fortunately, most trees, especially fruit trees, will work adequately in magic. Alright, now we're on to page, what says it's supposed to be 26, but it's actually on 25. There is a section in Magic, a short primer, called Preparation for Magic. And I'm just going to read the whole little section here. Well, no, I won't, because we also read it in the Cedar video. When you're preparing for magic, basically the floor of the magical room should be freshly swept and mopped or vacuumed. If there's a fireplace near it or in the room itself, light a fire, preferably oak is first on the list. Pine, holly, hazel, juniper, cedar, poplar, apple, or ashwood. But oak was first on the list. That's kind of cool. Alright, now we are on to page 53 through 54. Which I believe, yeah. Okay, finally, for a personal protective charm, take twigs from an oak or rowan tree. Put them down on your altar into a solar cross shape, equal-armed cross. We talked about that. And in the antecedent of the Christian symbol, I don't know what that means, but not where it's up top, where it's in the middle. Bind them together in the shape with a red thread. Touch it with the point of your magical knife and infuse it with protective purpose. See, it didn't say that in that other book. There's more details, but they've got some of the same things that come up. Touch it with the point of your magical knife. This is mine. It's pretty wicked. It's a Masonic anime from the 50s, I think. Came in this wicked box. So touch it to the cross and infuse it with protective purpose, saying these or similar words. Rowan or oaken tree and scarlet thread, I conjure thee to be a protection and safeguard against all adversity and evil. Protect me well. I always wear or carry it. Carry it with you. It can be placed in your wallet, purse, etc., or your bra. The same charm can be made of larger branches and hung up in a room for protection. As with all things, prevention is easier than curing. When productive measures have not been taken or maintained, however, purifications are sometimes necessary. Then it goes into talk about purifications, but really there we were just on to the oak advice. And now we're on to page 75, chapter in healing. And when we're talking about oak, we're talking about the section that is under healing wounds. For injuries and wounds, a different form of magic is often used. This is sometimes called Assumption of the Oak. In this, a dressing that has been used on the wound is sprinkled with rue oil and hidden inside a hole lowered into an oak tree. A natural hollow works best. You know when they have like naturally a hole in them in animals' hide, that's a natural hollow. This is done during a waning moon, for the wound is being banished from the person and being transferred into the tree, from which it will be dispersed into the earth. I always feel bad when I put something into a tree, but then I remember that the tree gives it right to the earth and it's all okay. Anoint the injured person with carnation oil to speed healing and regrowth of the damaged area of this or on his or her body. I really need carnation oil because it's not a flower that we grow here. However, it might be kind of easy, but the essential oil comes up a lot in Scotty's Magical Workings, and I'd like to at least try to use it. Okay, now when we're talking about oak and we're on to page 91, it just comes up under the element of fire, which we already talked about in one of his other books. But it's interesting to see how these different books break down information differently, and you get a little bit more in this than you had in here. You know, it's interesting, I think. So now we're on to page 96, and we're talking about oak. And we're in a chapter called Herbs and the Elements and Magical Fluid Condensers. And basically this chapter is talking all about the basic fluid condenser process, how you can make, using an earth condenser, using an air condenser, using the fire condenser, and then next is using the compound liquid condenser, sometimes known as the universal fluid condenser. This mixture is highly appropriate for all types of spells and is used to give an added boost of power. It is an excellent general anointing liquid for charms and amulets, magical tools, and sachets, and it is used too in purification baths and washes. Candles, magical images, jewelry, and precious stones are all aided and powered by the regular application of this liquid. Use your imagination in finding new uses. It is made as follows. Angelica leaves. Most commonly we use the root in magic. So angelica leaves, you guys. Sage leaves, cucumber skin, ha ha ha. Who has that in their magical cupboard? I do. Dried and ready to go. From when we did witchcraft in the kitchen, and I was like, save your scraps of the kitchen for magical tools. New cucumber skins would come up. Chamomile flowers, oak leaves or bark, violet flowers or leaves, peppermint leaves, tobacco leaves, and melon seeds. Take equal parts of each of these. Put about 2 handfuls and then put it into your pot. Cover them with spring water and boil slowly for half an hour. Cool, strain, and boil until the mixture becomes thick. Now, as with the elemental condensers, add the same amount of spirits. Add a few drops of blood or a piece of gold if you wish. Shake the mixture well, strain again. If you have added the gold and blood, then pour into a dark glass bottle. Store in a cool, dry place and be sure the label contains all important data, including the date of composition. Needless to say, all work in the manufacture of condensers is best performed while the moon is waxing, or while it's getting bigger. The day and planetary hour are not important, as these are general use tools. Condensers can be powerful aids into tapping the powers of the elements, if they are made with care and used with a good deal of faith and imagination. So that's a condenser, and oak leaves or bark is part of it. Now we are on